As I previously explained, the doctrine of universal salvation is being presented here as a non-critical church doctrine in the same genre as Arminianism and Calvinism. And I would oppose anybody who tries to elevate the doctrine of universal salvation to the level of critical church doctrine. The critical church doctrines have been laid down centuries ago, and all those issues have been resolved. And we are not discussing that any longer as Christians. We would call that closed-handed issues. What I am presenting is universal salvation in the same doctrinal genre as Calvinism and Arminianism. Calvinism and Arminianism are completely opposing doctrines. They cannot both be true. Yet you are free as a Christian to embrace either one, and you're still a Christian. You are not outside of orthodoxy if you embrace these views. Calvinism and Arminianism are not trying to explain how salvation was accomplished by Christ. We all know as Christians that salvation is accomplished by Christ by his atoning work on the cross and through his resurrection from the dead. What Calvinism and Arminianism have attempted to do is explain how salvation is applied. Who are the beneficiaries of salvation? And I am presenting universal salvation in that same doctrinal genre, trying to explain the same problem. How is salvation applied? And I am making the case that the answer to that question is salvation will be applied to all of mankind. And that is the gospel message, that Christ came to take away the sin of the world. Now, both Calvinism and Arminianism have 5 points of doctrinal outline. They call it the 5 points of Calvinism, and there are also 5 points of Arminianism. And I'm going to present to you here 5 points of the doctrine of universal salvation. These 5 points basically outline the doctrine and give you a basis for your biblical studies on the doctrine of universal salvation. So point 1, God is love. His goodness is free, immutable, eternal, infinite, and impartial. Point number 2, kingdom government by the faithful. To be a child of God is to be an heir of the kingdom and therefore carries royal authority, but is not exclusive salvation from death. Point number 3, death itself will be abolished by Christ. All of mankind is rescued from death by Christ, even non-believers, at the resurrection of the dead on the last day. Point number 4, the judgment seat of Christ. God's punishments are always corrective and measured, rooted in his nature of love and goodness and never infinite. Point number 5, followers of Christ alone pass directly through death and into life before the resurrection of the dead on the last day. I will be providing a much more in-depth study on each one of these 5 points in future videos so that you can understand them better. But as you can see, these 5 points are designed to bring in all these verses that supposedly support either Calvinism or Arminianism and put them into the context of universal salvation, and to see them in what I believe is the same light that the original believers would have understood them. The people who were originally reading the Greek manuscripts would have seen it this way and not in either of the Arminianist or Calvinist views. Please subscribe to this channel and visit thetotalvictoryofchrist.com and download the 5 points of universal salvation doctrine in PDF format. And verses, Bible verses for each point are included supporting these 5 points of universal salvation doctrine. Thank you very much for watching, and God bless you. Bye-bye.